Hi everyone, it's Erkan here on the Beyond Mainstream program, podcast, and I'd like to welcome my very special guest today, is Ceylan Etna, who I met recently. We had a fantastic chat at an 8-year-old's party, didn't we?
We did, yeah, we did. It was really interesting.
Like we just yapped away. It's like everyone else disappeared, and all these people running around made that noise. It was having this really fantastic conversation, and I wanted to invite you onto the show. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is, for me anyway, why I invited you, is that you're very cognitive of what's going on in the world around the pandemic and how it's changing our lives. And two is your background in journalism, and I found you very engaging, intelligent, and fun to talk with. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Do you want to just introduce yourself for our viewers, and then we'll get into it?
Of course, yeah. Okay. My name's Ceylan. I'm a journalism graduate. That's been a while though. I also freelance and I teach English as a foreign language as well. And I'm currently living in North Cyprus.
Yeah, that's not so bad, is it? Bit warm at the moment, the height of the summer in August, but it's a lovely place to be. I'd rather be here right now than probably anywhere else in the world. It's by choice.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Erkan. I really do.
So what? I mean, again, we don't want to go into too many personal details. What drew you back to? Because clearly you're not originally from Cyprus, I assume. Given your...
I'm not. No, I'm from the UK. I think just where. There's such a busy lifestyle in the UK and it's constantly go, go, go. And I found that kind of took a toll on me, I want to say. And I found it quite overwhelming. And the atmosphere over here, especially where it's so small as well, obviously compared to London where I was much more relaxing and I think calmer. And I think that's what drew me back, to try and give it a go.
And how long ago was that? What year was that?
Oh, 2014, I left. And then I was actually here for 1.5 years. And then I did move to Turkey after getting married. And then I moved back here again last year, just before lockdown.
It's interesting. I've spent more time in Turkey. Well, probably not now that I've been here for a while, but I spent up until I got here in February. I spent a lot more time in Turkey than I have in Cyprus, and they're very different cultures. Yes, there's a lot very similar because they're Turkish cultures, but I think Cyprus is very different to Turkey. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time near Izmir in Cheshire for the last 35 years. We had a summer home there, and when you go, I've never felt part of Turkey. I never felt like...
No, same. Like, I'm married to a mainland Turk, and even now, it's going to be, it's been over 5 years now, but even now when I do go, you kind of feel that little bit, I kind of sometimes feel that you don't fit in, if you like.
You know how I describe it? These aren't my people.
Yeah, it's
really odd.
It's quite bizarre because they do act differently.
Yeah, and I think they're what I found is their view of us is we already know up front you're not. Oh, you're from, and they make a real point of it. You're from you're Cypriot. Oh, you're Cypriot, and you go, yeah, I am. Okay, and that's like they pigeonholed you. As in, like, somewhere along in wherever it is in their mindset that's what you're about and that's who you are. Or they go, now pan bear, and I'm like, yeah, no, we don't do that really.
No.
That's kind of like, it does straight away. Kind of, you're an outsider, So I've always felt like an outsider myself. I mean, I grew up in England, in the UK, and we moved out of North London around about 11, and I moved to Hertfordshire, which is generally an all-white area. And my first day at school. Starting in this halfway through the second year, I got punched in the face and called a packy. So I was like a break of my innocence, that kind of
awful
racism and being told blatantly you don't belong. And I've never felt like I belonged anywhere. And the last 6 months here, 7 months, whatever it's been, I don't know, I just feel there's a climatized period because you don't when you get, but now I don't feel that I don't belong. I feel like I'm a reflection of this culture, which may not be the same as everyone here, but there's a lot of people like me, and I've made friends with them and I've met them. And on that note, I guess this the way we met and what's made it so interesting for me is that, you know, you understand what's taking on what is unfolding globally regarding this so-called pandemic and the effects it's having on our lives, and you're Turkish Cypriot and you're from the UK, and I guess that's a very rare breed.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, especially where I don't know how you are in regards to it, but especially where I've come across a lot of the new generation who are from the UK and are Turkish Cypriot, but they don't know the language, they're not very aware of the culture, or they come here, they don't really know how to speak, but yet they're still like, oh, but you know, we have to do this for North Cyprus and we have to do that. But then I think, but hold on a minute, if you don't have the language, then surely in which way do you think about, you know, standing up for that, or, you know, fighting for something that North Cyprus should have? And I think that's quite a lot. I think it's quite a big part of the culture as well, especially where obviously, yeah, we speak Turkish, but when you're in Cyprus, the words and the dialect is completely different. Like, I'm teaching Turkish at the moment to UK citizens who are in the UK, but I'm teaching them mainland Turkish because, you know, it's no use me giving them the Cypriot side of things, because if they were to go and speak it somewhere that isn't aware of North Cyprus, then they're not going to understand them.
No, but it's like if you like Jersey or say Guernsey or these little islands off England, they might have very different. It's not just the accents; it's the sentence structures, and I think so because we had the British here for as long as we did. A lot of them will throw in English words, even if they're, you know, a lot of Turkish Cypriot, indigenous Turkish Cypriots here have some English, and they speak Greek to varying degrees, and that all comes into the conversation. And I think it's a very interesting, very unique dialect and sentence structure and humor.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think it's so special.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It's a very unique. It's a kind of you can either call it a mongrel or a hybrid. I don't know whichever way you want to look at it, but it's a very nuanced. It's a very nuanced way. And when I'm talking with people like yourself, you know, Turkish Cypriots from the UK, but what's really special for me is people that are from London, Turkish Cypriot here, and understand or have a view of the pandemic in a view that it's not something we accept and we want to challenge it. It's been a godsend. It's been absolutely fantastic, you know. So let's get on maybe onto our subject a little bit more deeper. So we wanted to talk about is how social media and maybe propaganda from a journalistic point of view is affecting people's behaviour, both generally and possibly specifically to do with their view or their understanding of the if you like the mainstream narrative of the pandemic and what they're learning on their own terms by doing some research. What do you think is happening? I know it's not quite a question, but how do you want to jump in?
I think there was something that I was told when I was at university, and that was that the mainstream media never show you the full 100% of the footage they receive. So let's say, for example, they're in a war zone or they're on a murder case, for example. The news will only broadcast something silly like 20%, because what actually is going on is so traumatic at that point in time that our brains won't be able to handle it. So they don't broadcast everything that's filmed.
Would you say that's more specific to Western reporting? Because when I watch Turkish news, I mean, in the old days, I don't know so much now, I don't really watch much of it. They'd show you car crashes and people dead on the roadside. And it's like, I'm like, wow, you know, guys, you know, a lot more gratuitous.
Yeah, I think Turkish media is definitely an exception. What I've found with Turkish media, it's much more emotional. And I think that comes with the with the language of it. So, for example, with English media, it would be, you know, this person was found dead in a car crash, straight to the point, time it happened, date, you know, done, and then
just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Yeah, but with
and
the
two daughters and a wife or something, that's it.
Definitely, but with the Turkish media, it does give you emotion and opinion. But during, like, when you compare it to Western, really that's not allowed, because it's kind of coming across as unprofessional, because you're giving that emotion, and it's kind of, I don't know, you kind of let it affect you more than you should. And that's not really what journalism is about. It's more to do with, you know, exploring and bringing out stories that we don't hear about regularly, or that, you know.
I was at my parents in January. I was with them in Turkey, and I have the news on. I say, listen, it's not news. Don't put the news on anyway. So I was doing something in the kitchen. I could hear the telly, and it was like, and they talk very fast and loud and emotive. And I come out, I said, Mum, what's happened? What's happened? And she said, oh, there's been a snow block in a village. I said, so basically what they're doing, in my opinion, is they're driving a lot of fear and sensation and it's very base, you know, it's very base emotions. It's very base emotions of desire, fear, you know, want or pushing away. It's very kind of base, you know what I mean? It's not very sophisticated.
I do.
Yeah. And especially around there was a guy that they watch, I think, on one of the Hulk TV. And he's like, you know, he was saying, where are the vaccines? Where are the vaccines? And Mum goes, and Mum said, Mum, this guy's not for the people. And she goes, yes, he is. I said, no, he's asking for where are the vaccines? Like, get them here. And then the program stopped as a what they call it, an interlude. What's it called? Advert, yeah, what they call it, an advertisement, and it's Microsoft or Intel. I said, this is not Hulk. This is not representing the people. This is clearly a counter narrative to say that we're not the mainstream, but we're for the people. Sponsored by Intel and Microsoft, and guys demanding where the vaccines. And I find it very interesting that people can't seem to understand what is being presented to them.
No.
There's clearly this information, because they reckon that when you're watching telly, you go into some kind of hypnotic state and you're more open to suggestion, and it's almost like a direct link to the subconscious, and we just kind of like I'll go and get some baked beans now from Heinz, you know, or whatever. And people say it doesn't work, but it does work. It clearly works. It's clearly working, you know. So are you actually active in social media yourself? Are you doing any reporting at the moment?
I'm not doing any reporting at the moment, no. But I am. I'm only active on Instagram, and I shared something yesterday. It was to do with, I want to say, gene therapy, something to do with genes. I shared something by a doctor in Turkey. She tweeted it, and then I also wrote underneath, please can someone tell me what's going on and how this isn't discriminating against us. And I also said, why is it that the age range has been brought down to 12 years old for vaccines, and in some countries even 5 years old? How can it not be about children? And then I also I wrote all this in Turkish, by the way, and I also put underneath, if they don't soon start dividing us and claiming that people who aren't vaccinated as terrorists, then come and have a chat with me, because I think that's the whole aim. I come across a very close relative of mine who I love dearly. She's very lovely. She's an amazing lady, but she's also been sucked in, if you like, to this so-called pandemic. She's double vaccinated, and she's said to, you know, people who aren't vaccinated, that are close with her, if you do decide not to get the vaccine, then I'm going to have to not see you. And I think that's very personal because, but she sees it as though, oh, you know, if I can take the vaccine and protect you, then why can't you have the vaccine and protect me? But how is that vaccine protecting us if more and more people are getting sick after having the vaccine, or they're still dying? So what does that tell me about the vaccine? The way I see it is, I actually saw on Turkish TV, I think it was about a week or two ago on the news, that as soon as the schools reopen in Turkey, I think it's every week, parents who aren't vaccinated will have to give a negative PCR test to the schools. And then if they don't, then their child won't be able to go to school unless they then test negative. Why? Doesn't add up, does it? So how can it not be about children and control? There's obviously something not right.
Are you being subtle for the sake of it, or is it because you don't want to say what you really want to say?
There's more. There's definitely more.
I mean, well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I understand.
It doesn't. No, I agree with you. It doesn't.
Fair scrutiny, does it? Because our understanding of vaccines, it gives you immunity, but not with these special vaccines, because they don't give you. You can still catch and spread this so-called coronavirus. Yeah. So therefore, people who've had it, most people who've had it now have two, from what I understand, and these third ones, these boosters, are coming in.
The fourth's coming in too. Have you heard of the fourth dose?
No, but I did hear there was a Swedish or Swiss doctor said that it's got to be 5. Look, in my view, Bill Gates said this a decade ago. He said, you know, we're going to have a decade of vaccines because the drug companies are losing money. They can't make money. Their patents are coming to an end. And they've now had this special pass, this indemnification pass, that says that they can't be held liable for their products. I've lost you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Ah, that's better. I've got you back.
That's better. Yes, I can hear you. I'm so sorry. I had a call come in, but I just messaged it back.
No problem. Yeah, so this whole thing doesn't really make sense. Is that, the flu has been around, the flu vaccine, obviously the flu's been around as long as I suppose we've been around, but the flu vaccine has been around since 60, 70 years. They haven't resolved the flu, but yet this novel virus that's never existed before has suddenly turned up, and they've managed to come out with this injection, and you need 2 of them, but now you need 3 of them. But you still have to wear face masks. You still need a PCR.
You still have to have a test. You still have to quarantine.
And people have been dying, and people have been reporting serious adverse. In fact, I was at my auntie's house near Lefkosha the other day. She's an 86-year-old. She's absolutely adamant she's not going to have it. And she said that a neighbour of hers, a friend of hers, got the 3rd booster and went blind.
Oh, gosh. So
it's not just, death at least is quite, it's quite final. But imagine, and I've seen many cases of people having these injections and then having very serious problems, neurological problems. We've seen martial artists losing their limb, having to have legs cut off due to blood clots and all sorts of things. So imagine how many people out there are having, from very serious to quite, mild reactions. But these are just the short-term. There's only been 6 months, coming up for 7 months.
What's going to happen in the next 5 years, Erkan?
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk in the, I would say mainly in the alternative media, of serious doctors, epidemiologists, scientists, saying that we're going to be seeing a lot of people having serious issues and deaths over the next, especially over the next 6 months as we hit the next season. And it's truly concerning that also if you're posting stuff on YouTube or Facebook or wherever that is questioning or presenting alternatives.
Question is taken down, is censored. I have a lady who I follow. She's got, I think, 7 children.
Wow, she's been busy.
She has, yeah. But she hasn't had the vaccine. She's totally against it. She posts very regularly what's going on in regards to, you know, how they're trying to control us. I also, and as she says, every time she posts something, either half of her posts get taken down, even on her stories, or she loses followers. And she says, you know, I'm not against, you know, I fully respect anyone that has the vaccine. That's totally up to them. But it's not something that I'm going to implement in my life or into my children's. You know, she just won't allow it. And quite rightly too, there's been a number of times where I've messaged her and said to her, you know what, I'm so glad that somebody that inspires me, like I actually admire her. Like, I don't know how she does it with 7 children and still like manages to have her house clean and cook, and I'm just like, wow, I have one.
It's a busy person, don't you? I mean, like 7 kids and kids at home, and I mean that's the.
And she's also not failing to do the research that's required, and that's what she's saying. Like, she's like, don't take my word for it, but honestly, go onto the internet and research what's happening, because it's all out there anyway. And it is. Like, I went onto the government website about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe more now, and if you type in the names of vaccines on the UK website, it gives you the reports of them, and it says every single symptom from A to Z. I haven't even seen half of the words on there. How many people have had that side effect? How many fatalities there are? So the UK government isn't hiding it. It's giving it to you in black and white, but no one's choosing.
They're looking for it, but they make it. I mean, like say the MHRA yellow card scheme is one in the UK, and I think VERS in America. You've got to really go. You've got to really. It's hard to find, and that's if you want to find it. So, but they're not putting on every day in the news. You know, like we was getting. And today,
no, of course not.
From coronavirus, COVID-19, COVID-19. You know, like, and it's kind of like you talk about people having adverse reactions or dying. Oh, there's no. It's great. You just get a bit of a pain in your arm, and you'll be fine, and you'll be safe.
No, yeah, of course. There was another video that I watched. It was via somebody that shared it, and he was doing a live. He was actually on the way to the hospital to see his partner, and she had had the vaccine, I think a couple of weeks before, and this was someone maybe in her early to late 20s, and he said, I've actually seen somebody who was very fit, healthy, you know, going to the gym, constantly active, doing everything that she can, and now she needs me to take her to the toilet after having the first dose of a vaccine. I'm not sure which vaccine it was, and he actually heard the doctor say it's because of the vaccine that this has happened. And, you know, she's now going to have to learn how to walk again, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure what current condition she is in now. Just the other day, my best friend, she had the vaccines, I want to say 2-3 months ago. She had the first jab, then she had her second, and she had the Astra. And I was really worried, actually, because I know it's got very bad side effects, especially in young people. And I remember messaging her on the second jab and not getting a response. So I messaged her husband and her mum, and I said, you know, is she okay? And they said, yeah, she's fine. She just got a bit of a headache. She recently got COVID, and she actually said to me, they all did, but I think she got the worst of it, and her mum is also vaccinated, but she is high risk because she's got underlying health problems. And I didn't hear from her properly for 2 days. And on one of the days where she messaged me, she said to me, I actually thought I was going to die. Like she said, I couldn't open my eyes all day. And still to today, when I messaged her yesterday, she goes to me, still no taste and smell. She goes, it's been 4 days now. She goes, I can't taste or smell anything. And I said to her, gosh, I said, you've had the vaccine. I said, and you've still got it. And you're in this state. I said, maybe you shouldn't have had it. Maybe that, like, I was dead against it. Her husband's dead against it, and he's not vaccinated. But because she has asthma and she doesn't want any other children, you know, and she works in a school, so things like this, I think she kind of felt a little bit pressured into having it. And, you know, she said, I don't know how it would have been if I hadn't had the vaccine. She goes, but I've never experienced such an illness in my life. Like, I literally couldn't move. Coming back to coronavirus exists anyway, because coronavirus has been around for years. And how I know, I remember when my mum was in hospital and they had an antibacterial pump on her bedside, and it says what it can, you know, fight bacteria of. And one of the illnesses on there was coronavirus, but it wasn't COVID-19. So this is how we know that coronavirus has been around for ages anyway, but COVID-19 has been invented because they want to decrease the population. It's in so many TV series, you know, programs on Netflix. I saw it in, there's a Turkish program called The Protector, and it's set in 2 different times, and it actually shows in one of the scenes that they're creating a bug in this laboratory, and the minute they release these bugs, and it starts biting, they're planning to release them into a football stadium in Istanbul. And this football stadium is God knows how many thousands, tens of thousands or 100,000, however. And the minute it bites you, it takes about 15 minutes and then you die. And it goes on to the next person. But they managed to kind of save it, if you like.
I think a lot of that.
And that was filmed. I watched it not last year, the year before, in summer. So that must have been filmed a good year or 2 before.
Yeah, and imagine when it got written, the funding, the
Of course. So this is how you know that it all comes into planning.
I think it's, I mean, you know, it's all linked. I mean, you know the word paranoia, that people think that's something to do with fear and that. No, the ability, the paranoia is the ability to link the dots. It isn't about being, oh my God, they're all coming out to get me. It's actually, you start to work out how everything's connected. And I think we've had decades of fear-driven predictive programming response. So you put in a predictive response for people to have against the notion of a contagion or a disease. You know, we saw it in the film Contagion. I don't know if you've seen it in a while. In fact, I watched it the other night, but I had watched it back in December or November before I left the UK. I watched V for Vendetta.
I haven't, but it's definitely on my list. I haven't.
You've got to go and watch it. It's going to make your jaw drop. And this film was out in 2005.
Years ago. That's really old.
Yes, yeah, it's a 3-year-old film now or thereabout. And the whole idea of curfews, totalitarianism, fascism, strong arm of the authoritarian model, viruses. That's why it's all come about. We had to come to the rescue. There's nothing they're doing. Once you start seeing it, and the propaganda and the hype is kind of like I sit there and I'm like, wow, people are buying this, and they are, because they've had years.
Years of brainwashing and programming it into you that it's normal.
Yes,
so it's okay.
I said to people, if they spent a year and a half just talking about creepy crawlies, ants, spiders, centipedes, wasps, you wouldn't be able to go to sleep at night. You'd have to be looking under your bed, under your pillow,
I've
your underwear. You'd be like, they're everywhere, right? Now they are everywhere because in the Mediterranean they're everywhere. But you don't walk around constantly worried about, because I mean, if I see someone with a mask on, I mean, they clearly have no comprehension of the damage that's causing. Plus, its ineffectiveness in terms of protecting you against what the virus is supposed to be 0.3 microns or whatever, and the gaps in the. It's like trying to keep, flies out of your house with a normal fence. They just fly straight through. So none of it really. It's all. I think a lot of what's happening in mass media reporting is, I think journalism's dead in terms of the mainstream.
Totally, I totally agree with you, and that's probably why I'm not in it.
Yeah, I think in the mainstream, I think they should be, people should be hanging their heads in shame that you could call any of those people reporters. I mean, I've seen politicians come on the TV or wherever, and they're basically just pitching the politician's pitch. They're just helping them, and even when they're having these discussions, what they're saying doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, no.
It doesn't actually, if you just laid it down word for word, does that sentence construct actually making sense? And maybe I should give an example. Now, the reason I hesitate is because I've already given this example in a previous podcast, but I'll say it again. There was a paediatric, well-known eminent paediatric on mainstream TV in the UK, and the host anchor was saying, look, younger people don't want to take on these injections because of these reasons. She listed out the reasons. One, that big pharmas, a lot of them have been fined, found being illegal, falsifying their records, and he says, well, they have been a bit naughty at times. He laughs, but they've been fined millions. Well, they haven't been fined millions, they've been fined billions. And if you know what it's like to try and fine anyone or pay compensation out, it takes years of effort. There's a lot of people, I think in the US, there's $4.2 billion have been paid out in compensation by adverse reactions to vaccines. But now they're indemnified, so you can't even sue them.
Yeah.
Then he says, but this time they've been indemnified, and if they mess up this time, they'll be in real trouble. That sentence doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. Why?
Or you're going to end up in real trouble. And if you do end up in real trouble, who ends up in real trouble?
Yeah.
Who? Usually companies, nobody pays the price when companies mess up. They just pay fines.
Of course.
Or maybe they get fired, but you don't see people going to jail or, being really, having their houses taken off them and things like that. We've seen so many scandals, and, this company and they get fined these big award, these are big amounts of money, but it's nothing for them. It's like, it's like you or me paying out 100 lira because we walked across the road. Oh, yeah, I'll take the 100 lira. It's not a problem. It's not going to ruin your business or ruin your life in any way, is it?
No, of course not.
So these little units of logic and information, people don't seem to be able to put them together to kind of work out what is happening and the effect it's going to have on their lives, their freedoms,
I think so many people actually think that now that the vaccines have come out and places are opening up and we've got PCRs and stuff that in the next for example, I don't know, by 2022 that we're going to be back to normal. But what they don't understand is that this is what they are. This is their new normal. This is what they're trying to create. I think it's not just the control side of things, but I also think that it's to do with trying to dumb us down and not allowing us to use our brains and our intelligence or what we've been given to do the research or to say no, hold on a minute, I'm choosing what I put into my body. Like, for example, I do my best not to eat fast food as much as I can. There are times, I'm not going to lie, in the last couple of weeks I've bought fast food for my child. But I'm also very careful as to if she wants a hamburger, I'll do my best to make it for her. if I can, and I'd rather go and get the mincemeat and make it for her myself. At least I know what's being put into it, even with the salt levels. And if I can choose that, and I can choose what I can wear and who I speak to and whom I don't speak to, then I can also choose whether or not I get this injection or not. And I don't think anybody has the right to turn around and say, no, you should have it. But I also don't have the right to turn around and say, oh, don't have it. I can't force somebody not to have it. If they feel that that's going to make them feel better, or they're going to be comfortable and continue living that way, go ahead.
I'm a little bit more militant on that basis.
Go on.
Because I don't think coercion, misrepresentation, fraud is a basis for a choice. So to me, they shouldn't be having it. Absolutely.
I know what you mean. Of course, I totally agree. But if I find, like, for example, with my best friend, I said to her so much, I was like, I really don't think you should have this vaccine. Like, I definitely voiced my opinion and say that. But and I'll also explain why I don't think, because there's so much happening after this vaccine. I'm not sure if you saw the video, Erkan, and there was an American lady, and one of her children was in trial for the vaccine, and she took part in it. Did you see this video?
Is it the one where she ended up being caught with her daughter in a wheelchair next to her?
Yes.
Heartbreaking.
Yes, it was.
Really heartbreaking.
I watched it through tears. I honestly couldn't believe it, but I also wanted to smack the woman and be like, why on earth would you give your child to a trial vaccine? Like, I mean, isn't it, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Like, I do my best to protect my own child from all I can, even if it's somebody, like, for example, we're in the play area the other day at a restaurant, and somebody was blocking the way of her going up the stairs. So I raised my voice to them and I said, hey, I said, you all play nicely. I said, otherwise I'm going to call your parents. I said, because there's little children here too. And they all started playing nicely, because I thought, well, that's not fair on her. She's smaller than them and they're trying to bully my child. I'm not going to be rude, because obviously everybody's child is, it's their child. Our children are everything to us. So I wasn't rude, but I made sure that they knew that I was there protecting her. So
if your role as a mother and a father isn't,
of course,
that is your only role.
Of course, it's to protect them.
It's superfluous, isn't it? Our role as parents, and I tell my kids, my job's to keep you alive. I mean, I've been telling that since they grew up. What's my job? Keep us alive. That's it. Any other thing other than that, it's a bonus.
Of course, I agree.
Dad or bad dad or whatever it is, and I'm sure there's people out there with their opinions about my parenting. But what I mean is, your job, that is your innate role as for offspring, is to keep them alive and protect them and do your best by them. Now that's interesting, right? This fast food thing, or giving them a sweet that later on I shouldn't give. It's like holding the tide back. You have to be a very conscious, very well prepared, very on the ball parent to avoid the onslaught of food influences.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. Like, I'm not gonna lie. My daughter has chocolate, she has sweets. She definitely has it. I know, naughty, but she does. However, I'm also very lucky with her, because she was breastfed until, I want to say almost 2 years old. And I, hand on heart, truly believe that as a result, she doesn't get sick. She's only suffered a chest infection twice, and she had a cough recently, and other than that, touch wood, nothing. And I definitely believe that that's to do with that I gave her breast milk
Listen, again, I'm not an expert at that, but it seems the most natural thing to do, and the most antibodies and the most immune boosting solution on the planet has got to be breast milk for a baby.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't think of anything better. So, but being conscious about these things and making, I think that I think we came to a very interesting conclusion the other day. I was with a couple of friends, we were talking. It's what's your stand? You know, if you don't have a stand and holding a position of who you are and what you are, what your purpose is, then you're going to be. If you don't, what's this old saying? If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Whether that's food, whether that's how you view the injections and the face masks and the social distancing and closing down your business. Is my stand has always been to work things out for myself. I'm sovereign. I've always had that view that I'm going to work it out for myself, and I'm going to work out what I think. I don't care what you think, Mr. Teacher, parent, whatever. I'm going to work it out, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. You know, if I'm not sure, maybe sit back and consider different. That's choice.
Yeah.
You know, considering whether you're going to buy into that or that, and you're considering it, and you choose freely. That's a choice. Brilliant. But telling someone if you don't get this injection, you're going to lose your job. You don't get this injection, we don't really come around the house anymore. These aren't choices. These are corruption. They're manipulations.
Yep. And they're also against our human rights as well.
For sure. There's no integrity in it. There's no honour. It's no moral.
No respect. Not at all.
No, it's not moral. It's just not. It doesn't fit what it is to be a human being, having respect for each other.
It doesn't. No. And
I think also some of the footage you see, the way the police is behaving, or the way they're pepper spraying people, locking them up, putting them back because they didn't have a mask on, and because they said no. You know, this is draconian. This is infringement of human rights. But I think complicit, heavily complicit, is our mass media in all of this. Our journalists.
Oh, definitely.
Is not
definitely.
It's
playing such a huge role in influencing people, in having an effect on the decisions that they're making, in brainwashing them, if you like, excuse me, into not doing the research and saying, oh, well, I heard it on the news, so that makes it right. Does it? Does it make it right? Do we really believe everything that we hear? Should we believe it? I don't. And if I hear something, I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, let me check that out. Is that right? Who is that person that I've heard or I've been listening to this morning on the show, for example, or on that talk show? Let me Google them and see, where they're from and what they've been doing. Like, for example, if somebody recommends me a doctor, the first thing I do is Google them. And I get their backgrounds up. And I'm lucky I've got a few students. Well, they're not students anymore, but they were also practicing doctors when I was teaching them. And I'm very lucky in the sense where if I do get a doctor who is recommended to me, if they're Turkish, then the first thing I'll do is say, I'll ask a fellow doctor and say, by the way, this doctor was recommended to me. Any suggestions? What do you think? Is this someone that that you would recommend? What's their expertise, and so on and so forth? And I'll go and do my own research as well, because there are I think word of mouth has such a huge impact on people, especially in the Turkish community as well, and especially here in Cyprus. And I've had people say, oh, but people are going out and they're sitting next to each other, and so that's why the cases are going up. No, it's not. The cases are going up because they're preparing for another lockdown.
Yesterday, someone said to me, this whole thing about Cyprus is 50 people have died of corona in the 20 months. 50. If actually it isn't 50, it's 44. He said, and he said the population here. Official population around 300,000, right?
Okay.
300,000. That's not a pandemic by any means.
Of course it's not. No way.
No way. Probably more people die from eating raw chicken than that in that 20 months, or who knows? I don't know the statistics on the island, but that is not a pandemic by any stretch.
No, not at all. Not at all. I totally agree with you, and I also think that the lockdown here and everywhere, if you like, but especially here because we're so small, and I was okay, even though that my mum was in hospital during the first lockdown, and we were unable to go and see her. As stressful and as overwhelming and very traumatizing as it was, I have to hand on heart say that the second lockdown that we went through in February, I felt it so hard that literally after the second week, I turned around and I said to my husband, I think I'm going to go mad. And he was like, what? I said, I can't. I said, I feel like I'm actually going to lose it. Like I was like, I need to go out. I need to get out of this house. I said, they need to stop us being on a curfew and keeping us inside. I was like, it's not normal. I was like, they can't do it. I said, I'm going to crack. And he was like, you'll be fine. Don't worry, you won't crack. We're all here. Like, we're in it together. Like, don't stress. And a lot of lockdown, we were up as much as we could be after our little one would fall asleep. You know, we'd watch TV together, or we'd play a game, or I'd randomly start baking, and we'd constantly be doing stuff to keep our mind off things. And I think it's so important, especially where, you know, you're told not to go around each other's houses and not to hug and so on and so forth. And it's just like, well, then where's my support system, and where's my, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's need, but it's such an urgent need, I feel, of communication. You know, if you don't communicate with that person, and that person's going to communicate with themselves. And I live opposite a lake, by the way, Erkan, where the flamingos come. And during lockdown, I saw so many people at stupid o'clock in the morning, at night, coming and sitting down in front of that lake alone. And a lot of the time, I just wanted to go out and give them a hug and be like, are you okay? And it is a spot where so many people come and they just watch the flamingos, or they just sit. And it's really nice and very peaceful. There is also a very bad smell, though. So when that's not around, it's great. And I can't imagine what they must have been going through, because where we're in a circumstance of the unknown, and it's constantly changing, I feel that within the Turkish community, especially in Cyprus, again, because we're small and everybody knows everyone, so many of us are reluctant to open up about how we feel and how things are affecting us. And I think that's something that should definitely be broken here. And around the world too. Like, I don't know if you know, but a lot of mental health charities and advocates really spoke up and set up different campaigns, and got Zoom meetings set up during lockdown, during both lockdowns. And you know, that they're certain that doing that saved so many people from, you know, maybe self-harming or committing suicide.
We know suicides are up, depressions are up, domestic abuse, violence.
Domestic abuse is shocking.
All of these, all of these things have been, you know, the damage that's caused is nothing compared to what they're reporting as.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Listen, I think we'll kind of round up there. But what I would like, before we go, anything that you found works or has been positive for you, or has worked, you know, that leave people with something, you know, a little bit more. You know, one of the things we want to do is inform and empower people. What's working for you?
Well, I work out every day. I haven't worked out today, but I do work out every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. And I do it first thing. As soon as I drop my little girl off to nursery. Even on the weekend, I won't have breakfast. I'll wake up, do my workout, and then I'm set for the day. And I found that that's helped me quite a lot, because it gives me something to focus on that's to do with myself. It also makes me feel better about my physical health. And I think that's really important. I think if you find something that you can focus on to do with you, and it inspires you and it makes you feel better about yourself, then definitely continue it. Don't let go.
It's really interesting, because when we did a little setup of this podcast, one of the things we were saying is like, where's the hobbies gone? I've lost my hobbies. This has become all encompassing, and I think that's really important. Find, not to forget what makes you happy, whether that's exercising, going for walks, painting, singing. These things are very, very important elements of what makes us human. Our relationship with our body, for example, whatever it is.
Definitely.
It's really important. So, guys, really great last thought to be leaving you with. I want to say thank you, Ceylan. Really been a delight.
Thank you, Erkan. It's been a pleasure.
It would be, and I'm really, it's been wonderful. So if you're enjoying the show, guys, please like and subscribe, share it, comment, give us some feedback. I'll be back with some new guests shortly. Take care. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Take care, Erkan. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.